So we're opening a special meeting for Sausalito Marin City School District on May the 27th, 4:03 p.m. And not able to see who is in the waiting, but if there's someone from the community that has a question that they would like to bring up at this time before we go into close, you can do so at this time.
There are no hands raised and nobody waving at me from their small panel.
Okay, so we're going to close and we will resume to open hopefully shortly. All right.
All right.
Was she in the open before we closed?
She was, yeah.
Okay, so she'll know the link. All right, so
President Green, you'll report out a closed session and then reopen open session and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, all right, it sounds good. So forgive me as I read this, so I may not be looking straight at the screen, but the board has approved a pending special education due process complaint settlement for case number 2020050033. It was a unanimous approval. Trustee Barrow was not present, for the amount of $72,500. That resolves all past, present, and future claims against the district to support placement services for the student in its entirety. The settlement will be paid by Willow Creek Academy under the existing special ed agreement. We're going to move right into 4.01, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. If you will recite with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That takes us to 5.01. This is oral communications. This is a time that if you would like to address the board on a subject that is not already on the agenda, you can do so at this time. And if you plan to do so, if you can just use the reaction button that has a hand, you can lift up your hand and we will unmute you. I see there's 10 participants on this that's in the meeting.
There are no raised hands, President Green. I also do not see anybody waving at me from their small window. Wonderful.
So we're going to move on.
Chris Durbin just raised her hand.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was a little slow. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to pass something along that recently came to me, that there's a group in the Marinship who have been making face shields for, they've sent out tens of thousands of them to medical facilities across the country. They want to donate face shields to the school for all the staff and all the students.
Wow.
Yes, and I have the person to connect with, and they need an answer quickly. So I hope someone will get with me, help make this happen. They're reaching out to all the schools. They've reached out, to Willow Creek.
We already have a meeting set up. Thank you, Chris.
Sure. I understand they need to talk with you sooner. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Great news. It's how the community comes together.
True.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Bye. I'll go mute.
Is there someone else, Itoko, before we move on?
Did I miss them?
I do not see any further raised hands. And to answer your question, Trustee Turner, since we had a quorum as we were waiting for you to come back in, Ida did the report out and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Excellent. I missed it. Sorry. Good. I got lost in the Ethernet, so I don't know why. But
You can always go back. It's recorded.
I will do that.
All
And
right.
there are no further hands, Ida.
Yes, let's move on to 6.01. This is consider approval of CFW Incorporation's contract.
Yeah, so we had some discussion at the last board meeting about doing a survey to see if the community was ready for a bond. And so in keeping with the sort of tight timelines that we would have to do that, I am bringing forward a contract with CFW to create and implement and analyze the results of that survey. I am recommending approval, and the survey would be specifically about the general obligation bond in fall of 2020 to explore the feasibility of that bond. And for CFW to perform a random sample opinion poll. The purpose of the sample opinion poll is to identify voter support for planned district improvements, and will test the public's attitude toward the district, a potential project list, and tax tolerance levels of voters for proposed project improvements. The poll will also benchmark voter attitudes about a proposed bond program and recent COVID-19 impacts on the community. Once again, I am recommending approval, but very graciously, the folks from CFW are here and can also answer any other questions that trustees may have.
So in terms of timeline to do this initial like outreach, if you will, what are we looking at in that?
So thank you, President Green. Thank you, members of the board. Abel Guillen with CFW Caldwell Forest Winners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. In terms of timeline, we're looking at coming back to the board with survey results, hopefully by June 18th, your June 18th board meeting. So we've got about 2 weeks in order to not only get the voter opinion survey completed, approved by the superintendent, and out into the field, and coming back to present results to you. We hope to be out in the field for about a week or so time, talking to voters both on the phone as well as an online questionnaire, and get those results completed back to you by the 18th at your board meeting.
So as I understand it, that includes a project list that is just going to be agreed to between you and the superintendent?
No. So what, as I understand it, WLC, the district's architects, is completing a project list. And not to say that all the projects that are going to be tested are going to be completed. The projects will actually be finalized at the resolution itself. What you will be receiving back is projects, how they tested, what the voter thresholds are for those particular projects. And then the next step would be to come back to the board with a project list that has been reviewed by bond counsel and the board for your approval and review.
So my preference is that the board is a little more involved in this process prior to the survey going out to the voters.
Sure.
In the past, with the past bond, we had a board ad hoc, or bond ad hoc committee that we had created.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess it would have been ideal to put that on this agenda along with this approval, given the timeline. Don't know if we can do that by next agenda, and or we could do a facilities committee meeting to look at that project list, look at the survey questions and so forth. I mean, obviously one advantage of the bond ad hoc committee is that with the bond program and the short timeline, you could meet quickly and short meetings and as often as possible given the short timeline. I'd like to maybe consider that for a future topic on the agenda if we're going to be moving forward. But I'd like at least the facilities committee to be involved in creating this project list and the survey. The other benefit to that is that it would be a noticed meeting with the public involved so that there's some comfort level going into this questionnaire.
Thank you, Trustee
I have
Vianal.
no problem with that, and certainly would be able to work with the board and the superintendent as you direct.
Well, yeah, and considering the timeline and coming back for June 18th is really a quick turnaround. So I agree. It would be good to to meet in as a facilities and to help shape questions. But I think we can also kind of look back at the archived information that we've had. We've gone out once before with the bond. I don't know as though the questions would be any different than what they were when we did this in 2016. I think it was 2016, yes. But I do also know that what has gone out of communication to the board to do another special board meeting next week. So it's a possibility that we could put this matter on that agenda as well.
Yeah, I agree that a lot of the questions will be similar to last time, but that last bond was looking at 2 separate schools, 2 separate campuses. And I view this differently, where I think this would be under the lens of unification with 1 school, perhaps 2 campuses, if that were the direction. And so I think there would be some framing of these survey questions around the unification process, which is completely different from last time.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. But the fact of the matter is we have facilities on both sites. So if it's 1 school, 2 campuses, it almost shapes itself out to be the same because there's work to be done on both campuses, quite frankly.
No, I agree with that. But the one big difference was last time there was a gymnasium proposed on the Willow Creek campus, and I don't think that would be part of this process. So there is a big difference between the 2.
Can I pitch in? I'm having had countless unification task force meetings and really thinking about not just how this survey comes out, but how this measure might actually pass. It has to be central to it, and I hope you can do this in your survey, has to be that this is all about unifying and making a fantastic school. And while it's not the time to get everything we want to make our fantastic school, it's definitely the time to invite our community to really see that this is what we're doing. And it just is a way to move the whole issue forward in a positive light, which that'll be a great little test of how the community's enthusiasm is for unification.
Yeah, I agree. The unification task force has talked about the bond, and I believe Willow Creek had a meeting the other night. Also, the topic of the bond came up at the meeting, and I think the support for it there, I listened to the meeting, was around it being framed as a unification framework for the bond.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the master plan, and my understanding is really only Bayside MLK's campus has had visioning done for the master plan. And so I don't know, that makes me a little uncomfortable that there hasn't been a similar effort done on the Nevada Street campus. But I haven't seen it. It hasn't come to the board yet. So again, doing a survey before the master plan without board review makes me a little uncomfortable.
So I think that's the key word, is that it's what you've heard. We haven't seen it, so we can't be so forthcoming and what may be alleged or whatever the case may be. But at any rate, Caroline, I just want to know, go back to what I think I'm hearing, and that is for us to form either the facilities committee comes together with Dr. Garcia, CFW, and we talk about, we shape out questions that can go forward to the community at large. I think they identified over 8,000 registered voters and may be able to hit about 4,200 of those registered voters.
No.
I think we're going to be closer to maybe 300 to 400 if we're lucky.
300 to 400. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a pool of about 8,000 voters. You're absolutely correct. But not all those voters have phone numbers. Not all those voters will be able to take the survey. So we're really trying to aim to get a statistically accurate sample within 5% margin of error, which is usually about 400 surveys completed in this study. Happy to work with the facilities committee to shape those questions and put together the survey, make sure we have approval before it goes out into the field, and making sure that we capture the essence of unification in particular, as well as the other aspects.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, I brought this item today with the full intention that prior to any survey going out, that we would absolutely have a facilities committee meeting. And they're actually, we had a meeting with WLC last Friday, and there has been some visioning work done on the Nevada Street campus based on a lot of the feedback that we got through the unification town hall surveys on facilities.
Right.
And so the intent was to share all that with the board and get board's input on both the project list and survey questions early next week prior to the special board meeting.
Got it. Because all I heard from the initial presentation, he was going to meet with you and then they were going to survey.
You're good. Sounds like.
Yeah, I really think that would be great. And the more, I too attended the Willow Creek board meeting, and I just feel like we don't have a lot of time to build the support and to, this is part of the, in my sense, it's part of the process of building the support for the bond measure as well as for unification.
Yeah.
So that kind of process is important. So I really appreciate your willingness to, it makes sense to me to work with facilities committee and or the board, and then potentially do go ahead and set up an ad hoc committee in a future meeting. Because it is going to be hot and heavy, no doubt, if we move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just didn't want to start the process, get the ball rolling next week as opposed to this week, because time is of the essence.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you all understanding the timeline. Just to reiterate, while we have June 18th as our desired goal, the district has technically, according to the county, till August 7th to actually adopt and submit a resolution. So we're giving ourselves a little bit we're trying to be aggressive, but at the same time mindful of the timelines dictated by the county here.
And there's always a snag somewhere in the process. And what about, I know we're considering involving the facilities committee. Dr. Garcia, what about involving the facilities work group, or where they might fit into this process?
I think I can invite them to either if we create an ad hoc committee, which I really love that idea, or we just have a agendized facilities committee meeting. I'll make sure that we invite the facilities committee personally so that they can engage.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Dr. Garcia, I would say that if you do have any of the former or previous surveys that the district conducted available, it might be helpful to ask some similar questions to do sort of some tracking from 2016 to 2020 to see how voters have moved on particular issues. So if that is available, that would be helpful to track.
You're gonna
I
make me dig in
will.
my records.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we will track them down, and Abel, you have seen some of the facilities questions that were asked in the unification survey in the fall.
That's right.
In the integration generation plan. So you're right. It would actually be really intriguing to track those data points from 2016 to fall of 2019 to now.
Can Dr. Clark look up who the vendor was that we used in case we can't track down the survey results from last time?
I'm sure we can.
Do you have that? You have some of that material, don't you?
Me?
No, Ida Green.
It's archived. Yeah, I went back into some of the old board minutes, so not off the top of my head, but we can surely get it.
Okay.
I'm sure I have some things in my several boxes of stuff and emails I can look to.
We will find it.
Okay.
So is there any, are there other questions? Is there any intent from the public to ask questions regarding this line item for the bond? I only see 2 people from the public on this call, so I don't know if there's others.
No, you're right, Ida. It's Barb Killey and Chris Durbin, and neither of them have a hand raised.
All right. So I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we're gonna move forward. I was trying to give them a little time, but it's been moved in second. This is an action. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think the ayes have it.
Looks like it.
Great.
Okay.
So,
It's too bad we couldn't schedule this meeting for 11 p.m. for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my old school board meetings, one of them went till 2 in the morning, so I'm very familiar with late night meetings.
Oh, 2. Wow, that's late.
yeah.
Yeah.
If that ever happens, yeah, we'll need oxygen.
I think we actually had to adjourn the meeting at midnight and then bang in the gavel to
Oh
ask
my
the
gosh,
meeting to
that's
be
right.
extended to the next day. So,
Wow.
yeah, hopefully we won't have that happen here. Thank you so much for the
So,
opportunity.
gentlemen, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for jumping on. Yeah.
Dr.
Look forward to
Garcia
working
will
with
be in
you.
touch, I'm
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you, trustees.
Okay.
All right, we
Are
need
we adjourning?
I'll
a
move
motion to adjourn.
I'll move the adjourn.
Oh, wow,
I
that's it.
second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mhm.
All right, folks, we'll see you. Good night. Drive safely.
Thank you,
Stay
President.
healthy.
Thank you, President.
you.
Thank you.